red, blue, purple light. Friends, red, blue, purple light. Friends, facts, red, blue, purple light. Friends, red and blue, purple light. Friends, facts. You can get to know the ledger, sacrilegious Sunday to melanin Monday. You can get to know the ledger, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road. You better stay on your toes. I was till the land focused on the ego. Then I opened my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, we stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah. We gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts. We in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts. Peace, love and light. Peace, love to the family. Peace, love and light. To the family. Peace, love and light. To the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.
Peace to the family, peace to you and yours. Peace to the family, peace to you and yours. Welcome to another episode of Sacrilegious Sundays. You are now rocking with the best. Yes, this is your host for the evening, Brother Red Pillar. Let me know how we sound on the audio. I was getting jammed up in my throat. Yo, if there's anybody out there that got the connection with the lights, I need y'all to holler at me. I ordered some shit from Temu and it's not working. So I need the light hookup if anybody's out there with that. But I'm definitely one. Let's do the roll call. We got a show tonight. I was in a lab putting together a whole slideshow presentation. So yeah, it's gonna be one of those shows tonight. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of things to touch on. Few things to cover, you know. So yeah, let's get this thing rolling. How's everybody Sunday first and foremost? How is y'all strong in on this good Sunday? You know what I'm talking about? I was gonna do this earlier, but here we are. You know what I mean? I've come to the terms that I'm nocturnal. You know, I'm not gonna fight it and whatnot. You know, so we here, you know what I mean, and we're gonna cook tonight, and we're gonna bring the next 7 days in strongly. It's a lot going on. We got a lot of events coming up. We're gonna make some announcements. We have some sponsors from tonight's show, so let's get this thing rolling. All right. Minnesota and is in the building. We got Belize. We got Cali. Shout out to Cat. We got San Jose, Jersey City. All right. Santa Rosa. All right. We got Santa Rosa in the building. We got Connecticut in the building. Sucker Free City. San Fran, Cali. Connecticut. Louisiana. PA. Cali. Ohio. Louisiana up in this thing. You know what I'm talking about? Shout out to all of y'all. Oakland, Houston, Illinois, San Antonio, Philly. You know what I mean? We got VA, Miami-Dade, Queens, Norfolk, 757. What the? Qatar, Moreno Valley, Germany, It's like Indiana. I'm on tour like Kendrick right now. Los Angeles, H-Town, Seattle, Duval, Jersey, Cape May, DMV, Arizona, Georgia, Commerce, Georgia, Texas. That's what I'm talking about. New Iberia, Louisiana. Shout out to y'all. New Iberia, mind you. New Iberia. Yes, the wildfires in Jersey. Crazy. Right? So you have Los Angeles. Then it was South Carolina. Then it was Jersey. Some other places. Let's take notes. You know? Let's take notes. Whenever these fires pop up out of nowhere, you know, random shit. We know what that is. Bat signal goes off. Yeah, man. So, shout out to all of y'all in the building. I hope y'all caught the broadcast earlier. Brother Blue Pillar, aka Pope Pablo, he came through like a hurricane in a whirlwind. You feel me? And he opened up the heavens and whatnot, and he watered the plants. April showers bring May flowers. So depending on who you talking to, there was a lot of tears falling this strong in. You feel me? Whose household was they crying and crying me a river? And whose household were the tears flowing like waterfalls because they was putting Papa in the ground? You know, if you're in a Haitian household, a Jamaican household, a Haitian African, chances are a Spanish household, you know what I'm talking about? Chances are, you know, they bent out of shape because the Pope is gone. Or do they even remember that? You know, I said on the show last night with Blue Pill, shit, I saw more news about sinners than about allegedly saints since the 21st. Really think about that. You know, really contemplate that. You know, I'm not of the cloth. I just spit the cloth. I don't know what's going on in those churches. You feel me? I don't even know what's going on in churches chicken, man. I promise you. I did tell y'all that my research was telling me that a lot of people were going back into the burning house. They were running back to the church. There's been a revival of the church in our communities. Right? Allegedly, there's a lot of these knuckle dragger celebrities getting baptized, and people are like, I'm just going to give my life to Christ. I've seen too much. There's certain type of people that turn their lives over to Jesus, right? But there's a segment of people who become religious out of fear, right? There's a segment of people who become religious out of getting scared into religion. Those are the type of people that I want to talk to. Those are the type of people that I want to interview, because it be it be some traumatic shit, right? And I'm really interested in talking to the street workers and the gangsters, like the what they call the soft underbellies, because those are the people who could verify the existence of vampires. You have to be very, very, very deep in the dark underworld to know about shit like that. You got to be real, in the mud to know about what's going on in the subterranean worlds. But I promise you, the homeless, the streetwalkers, or the streetwalkers, or the night walkers and the day walkers, they know, they've heard stories. They got their ears to the ground. This movie Sinners has spawned conversations amongst the nation, you know, both people who are newly Christian, born Christian, you know, born again Christians, you feel me? And people who are atheists, Muslim, and the like. People are talking. How many people in the chat saw the movie? Because we gave y'all about what? It's been days now. We've been having these conversations, and it's just not us, the whole this is a thought piece, this conversation since the movie came out, it's dominated people's quote unquote timeline. So spoiler alert, I'm not being insensitive. I'm just saying, when you watch it, then come back and listen to it again, it'll make more sense. I even said, where do people find the time? Because I couldn't, I had to find a way to make it to the movies. I'm like, what the fuck? How do y'all even find the time? You know what I mean? But I found the time, and I went and got that. I went and seen it, and yeah, it's one of those ones. It will be part of our collective cultural experience moving forward. Just to show you, right? Just to show you how powerful our story still is. I could stop talking about it, but the conversation about it is not going to die down. I encourage it not to. I encourage it not to, because at the end of the day, it's so many layers to the movie. It's a layer cake. And we talk about some of the damnedest things. So I would appreciate if we were to spend some time and energy, speaking about something that could be that could lead to other things. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna keep unraveling it. It's a gift that keeps giving. A ode to excellence, or a ode to, and when I say excellence, I'm just meaning excellence, right? I'm meaning excellence, and not black excellence, not white excellence, just excellence in your craft. So salute to excellence. Homie was on his excellent shit. He was tapping into his he's tapping into his mastery of his craft. You know what I mean? His mastery of his craft. Okay? And that's impressive. We need more people like that. I hope that they don't put all of the weight on this man's shoulders. They need to clone his mastery in that industry of black directors, black producers, black executive producers, cameramen, filmographers, videographers, actresses, all of them. Use Ryan Coogler as the standard, the same way that they was using Spike Lee as the standard in the 80s and whatnot, and pull yourself up. We should boycott, or we should quote unquote refuse to support any more of the Tyler Perry productions that that right? Because I'm not hating on him and I'm not trying to stop his bag. I'm saying any of the productions that fit the criteria of any of the four stereotypes, right? The bully coon, the Jezebel, um, the sassy, there's another archetype or prototype. Wesley Muhammad speaks about this in extensive, and Wesley Muhammad will be coming to the platform very soon. If you don't know, we have a lecture coming up in May with Wesley Muhammad, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, I'm sorry, a KTL alumni who's been with us since Blog Talk Radio days. All right, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. We have something very special in May for the Patreons and for the KTLians. Dr. Wesley Muhammad is going to blow the roof off of a topic that is tied into this movie that I'm speaking about, vampires. People who exploited the culture vultures, vampire, right? So the Jezebel, right, is the hypersexualized quote unquote harlot that they show in media and in the movies and and they attribute it to our culture. There's four stereotypes that they're running with, that they're throwing billions of dollars behind. The bully coon, right? The reason why we're so drawn to, some of these minstrel shows and whatnot. The reason why, we're drawn to these quote unquote minstrel shows and these quote unquote the buffoonery and the coonery, we're just drawn to these things because it's being marketed to us. But as you can see, with Ryan Coogler in the movie, quote unquote, Sinners, the way that they shot the movie, the way that they wrote the movie, the way that they built the characters up in the movie, right? People respect mastery, right? People respect mastery. So that is a standard that I am moving with. And I suggest that those who want to master their craft, you study masters. The movie reminded me of You and Your Brother in a way. I would say that, and this is, for anybody to dispute, feel free. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it to not, but I feel that I know a lot of twins. I know a lot of twins in this world. And the muses that was used to write Smoke and Stacks, I don't really know any other twins that fit that muse other than Red and Blue Pill. You know what I mean? Like, if you know some, then so be it. Then he used them as the muse. But in my universe and in my world and in my reality, me and my brother was used as a muse to write those characters. And to be honest with you, even if that wasn't the case, the great divine speaks through signs. That's me and my brother, in so many ways. Salute to the Abeji and whatnot, all of the Abejis out there, all of the twins. I pray that y'all get the respect and the honor that you deserve, and whatever community that you belong to begin to activate and treat you like Abejis and stay honorable to what they're supposed to do for the Abeji, right? Because in this community, they don't do that for me and my brother. They ignore, they claim that they're spiritual, but they do not honor the covenant of the Abeji, So kudos to y'all in y'all community. I hope y'all are receiving that. The brothers in Memphis going against Elon Musk is honorable. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm paying attention to that fight that those two brothers in Mississippi are waging against Elon Musk. And you know where I stand in that quote unquote, battle and whatnot. David has to take down Goliath. Elon Musk is one of the pale-faced horsemen, so he got to go. I do not support anything Elon Musk. And it's real funny that I saw that they put a report out that Tesla was it was bleeding and whatnot. The Tesla stock is taking a beating. It's down 70% since the protests began against Elon Musk and Tesla. So it just goes to show you that there's ways that you could basically, strip away from these oligarchs uh, that fake sense of immunity that they think that they have. You know, he's in Memphis and he built a data center. He's poisoning the environment already. They're building a supercomputer in Memphis. He said God will be built in Memphis. So it might even be the spirits of the brothers who are going against them to just shine a light. You know what I mean? Because the more that you dig, you'll come up with some shit. So the light is gonna be shine on that because you could look at Elon Musk fragility all day. Fragility, he look like he scratches himself. Fragility all day. So if you put pressure on an Elon Musk type, especially melanated people, if we on his, he'll pack up and keep it moving. Was that Robert Jackson at the end of the credits? That was the archetype of him. The same way that at the end of the credits, the archetype of Stack was P. Diddy. That was P. Diddy in 92 at the bar with the Coogee sweater on with the white girl and whatnot. Or the Octoroon, the mulatto girl. I'm sorry for, the Octoroon. That was P. Diddy at the end with the Coogee on. No, it couldn't be anybody else. And Clive Davis is Remick. Jimmy Iovine is Remick. The Brofmans are Remick, right? Liar Cohen is Remick. Who is that? With Easy E. Their manager, Remick. That's who those are. Jerry Heller. Okay? Those are the vampires who were telling unsigned artists, come outside. They were telling artists who were getting money out of the back of their trunk, come outside, right? They didn't have the club back in the days. When our people, remember when Clive Davis infiltrated black music in the 70s and he took over the Philadelphia sound by way of Gamble and Huff and Stax Records and everything? They were not controlling the discotheque. They were not controlling the quote unquote venue in the juke joint. They're controlling it now though, right? So in the scene, in the last scene at the end credits, if you stay behind, you have to stay behind after the credits rolled and whatnot. They showed the vampire, they showed Stax and Mary, right? Mary Magdalene, right? Mary the Stallion, Mag the Stallion. They came into the bar where Sammy was all grown up, right? Looking like Robert John, looking like homie from the Crossroads. And they was chopping it up with him, right? Yeah, there was a mid-credit scene and there was an after-credit scene. So, you gotta pay attention to those Easter eggs. But yeah, that was P. Diddy, bro. That was Diddy. I'm gonna have to superimpose Diddy's face on Stack. Why was old Sammy's reflection missing from the mirror if he told them no? Interesting. And also, After credits, he fixed his guitar. Yes, you see it after the credits. The guitar is looking beautiful. The name of the guitar, I got it written down too. I believe it's Doris. The name of the guitar is Doris and whatnot. You know, Googler was definitely inspired by you and Blue. The celebs be watching y'all. Kudos to the celebs. I'm honored to be the muse to these two artists, these characters, right? It's called the Sinnerverse, right? The sinner verse. This is a new world that people are now introduced to, and it's not ever gonna go anywhere, right? It's part of the culture now. So Ryan Coogler, kudos to you for immortalizing me and Blue in the cinema, and that's how you use a muse. That's what a muse is. You feel me? I have muses in real life. You feel me? 11:11. All morals go to heaven. I got muses in real life that I use for inspiration and whatnot. What would the world be if I didn't have muses? That's what I would think. Yeah, the dance that Remick was doing was so spooky. Yeah, that was a spooky dance, wasn't it? That was some of y'all be in them white bars doing the same dance though. After you get a few shots in you, you know, a few shots in you. Cornbread switching up is those frenemies that act like they got your back. Right, right. That was definitely cornbread. Cornbread was that snake, that snake in the grass. That's why he saw the snake in the truck and whatnot. He should have seen the warning signs. But yeah, shout out to Cornbread. Cornbread got washed. You know. Let me go ahead and open up this screen, man. We're gonna get into this presentation, man. Let we talking. We might as well get into this. Get into this, huh? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, me and Blue Pill have a lecture coming up, and leading up to that lecture, we just gonna be cooking. Leading up, we in the kitchen all the way up into that day, basically. You know what I mean? In so many ways, like there's nothing else that we can do but cook. So this is the rollout, Saints and Sinners. It's gonna be on May 3rd. And quiet as cat, we're in discussions, right? We're in discussions. We're talking to our whole team about the possibility of this not being a lecture, but actually being a 2-hour film, right? A short film. Well, 2 hours ain't short. Push ourselves to the limit and do like a film, like a video essay / film and whatnot, because there's so much information to be shared. You know what I mean? And it's time to step it up and go cinematic with it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that time. The AI has advanced. You know, we know what we're doing. You know what I mean? So we'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see. But you could scan that QR code right there and get your ticket. However it's done, whether we do it live, whether we do it on Zoom, whether we do it as a film, however it's going to be done is going to be classic. It's going to be epic. If you know anything about this, will be a story. This is not necessarily Sinners Decoded. This is more about Red and Blue's quote unquote hero's journey, Saints and Sinners, May 3rd. Be there or be square. All right. And yes, once again, shout out to my good brother Ryan Coogler. You feel me? Legend, you know what I mean, for capturing. I watched it again, and I respect Michael B. Jordan's acting, his acting chops. You know what I mean? He did manage to pull off something remarkable. He did manage to embody the red and the blue energy. He did manage to give us a depiction of two gangsters, right? These is gangsters. These ain't no regular twins. These is gangster twins, right? but these are gangster twins from a different time period, right? A gangster twin in the 90s is not a gangster twin of the 30s and whatnot. It's not the same as somebody in the 70s. So I felt like I got transported to that world. That's very important. Study these films when you want to begin to get into world building. If you're a creator, if you're a writer, if you have an imagination, right? Keep in mind, scripts are sold to directors and movie houses. What does that mean? That means that you could write a script and don't got to be the one to direct it, don't got to act in it. You don't have to carry it all the way to the finish line. The script comes from your mind. It comes from your wealth of knowledge. It comes from your diamond mind. You know what I mean? It's your script. It's your story. I encourage my KTLians to get into myth making, to get into script writing, to get into quote unquote film. It's the most powerful medium that you have at your fingertips right now, as seen by the movie. And how can you weigh it out? My measurement is the fact that the Pope died and nobody was talking about it. They was talking about this movie. So this is not a sports game. It's not a rap album. This is not a concert. You feel me? This is not a Super Bowl performance. This is a film, right? And it's shot in film on 100-foot screens and whatnot. It will live longer than man. And it brought you into a universe, and it told a story, and it broke a few spells. Okay? And it laid out everything that you need to lay out if you're a vampire slayer moving forward. Because moving forward, if you're not a vampire slayer, shit, you're a vampire. Just the way it is outside these days. You understand what I'm saying? So many people I know have gotten bitten over these days. C19 was a vampire ritual, and the Jabberwocky was the bite. And I'm not being facetious at all. I feel I got compassion. So I don't try to go hard about that on these platforms because I don't want nobody feeling bad and shit. Right? But it's just about awareness at the end of the day. The Jabberwocky was the bite. You understand? Fauci is the vampire. They stood in front of you and they convinced you, right? All of these vampires, Klaus Schwab, Prince Charles, Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci, Dr. whoever. And they was like, hold on, I'm going to convince you of something. And they rocked you to sleep, right? And they convinced niggas to come out the house. And some people stayed in the house, and they're referred to as the unsullied. And their sperm is going for more money than a Hermes bag. Okay, that's the new luxury. Your super sperm. How about that? And that good ovary. Right? That pure blood. You are unsullied. You're the new luxury. Okay, luxury died. In case you didn't know, all of that shit fell in the water and whatnot. All of those houses crumbled. And the new luxury is the melanin in your body, right? Your melanin, your mind, right? And your blood, if it's unsullied. That's the new Bitcoin. Don't let them fool you and put you through another operation where they sully you up a little bit more, where they dirty you up, where they knock on the door and you answer. That's how they moving. I hope this makes sense. Once again, spoiler alert. If you didn't see the movie, when you do get a chance to see it, pull up and we'll you know what I'm talking about? And watch this again to get better context. But we got the visual, we got the videos right here. We're gonna make it plain. You don't even gotta watch this shit to understand what's going on, to be honest with you. That's how good he wrote this. right? So, like me and Blue explained on the show, right? I wish me and him was on Brother Rich's channel together. It would have been a better bounce off of each other because this whole thing about the twins is very important. If you know anything about the hero's journey, right? The way that the movie opened up, the twins were returning from their hero's journey, right? They left home on a hero's journey. They were gone 7 years and they returned, right? Safe and sound. Okay. They had their limbs. They were back from war. They were back from the gangster Chicago. They were back from flirting with death. They were back from the danger. Okay. So in a hero's journey, that's very important when you're able to identify where exactly you are when the movie starts. So they were on the return, Saturn return. So they were not the main heroes or herus of the film, right? They were guiding the main hero, who was the one who told the story, right? Because he who lasts the longest is the one who's telling the story, correct? Because if you're telling the story and you go before the person, no, he's telling it's Sammy's story. Sammy's the main character. Sammy was the protagonist. This was about Samuel, preacher boy, right? The preacher boy, the one with the musical skills, right? The angel of music, of sound, who had the guitar, right? Named Doris, shaped like a woman. They say the guitar is shaped like female anatomy. They called it the devil's instrument. The devil's instrument. Not the piano, not the drums, the guitar. And the guitar, we didn't necessarily start out playing the guitar. White European Victorian women actually were on record starting with the guitar and whatnot. And they used to play the guitar privately amongst themselves. And black women in the South, they labeled it the devil's instrument. Okay, they labeled it that. So Ryan Coogler just didn't stumble upon twins to be his protagonist and whatnot in the movie. He actually has symbolism behind what it is that he's doing. Once again, multiple layers and whatnot. So he is not shy about explaining the significance spiritually of what twins are. He's saying it in his interviews, thus teaching people at the same time about something they had no idea about whatsoever. You know what I mean? They did not know what this meant.
I needed to ask you this question. Why twins? Why twins in this movie? I think a lot of people ask you that question, but I just want to know it for myself.
Yeah. That's actually, I haven't heard that one.
Really?
Why twins?
Yeah, why twins?
Yeah, I haven't got that one.
Look, the poster is a story primarily about Africans in America. If you know the history of foundational Black Americans, they come from West Africa, right? In Nigeria, there is a deity, a twin deity in the Yoruba religion. You know, Yoruba people over-indexing the birth rate of fraternal twins. It's a thing that we reckon with. And I was born into a family that's littered with them. Like, so my mom's older sisters, Marilyn and Curlin. Auntie Curlin was my godmother. And so my whole life, I could always tell them apart, even though they're completely identical, you know, just by how one holds her face. You know what I mean? Like, they could come into a room behind me and I can know which one it is. You know, so I have a sensitivity towards this very, very rare, still small, very prominent human condition.
How does that audio sound? Are y'all hearing it through the microphone or are y'all hearing it through the slide, like through the YouTube? Let me know. Twin sister. What's that Future song? Is it Twin Sisters? You said through the mic. The audio is good.
heard who they say Tommy Johnson or Robert Johnson sat down at the crossroads to get they guitar tune and sold their soul for musical skills for the remainder of their life. That in that concept of what type of deals do people in oppressive situations have to make and have to rationalize, and me realizing that, oh yeah, man, I'm from Oakland, but it was a time when there wasn't no black people in Oakland. They all had to come from somewhere. And what did they leave? You know what I'm saying? They left home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if for me it was like, oh yeah, it's always a deal.
See, no disrespect to anybody who code switches and whatnot, because once again, I'm not trying to pick on anyone. I'm really not trying to be a bully. But Ryan Coogler would hit differently if he was code switching. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Why authenticity is the superpower, and you don't have to worry about too much in life if you just stick with being authentic. Like he does people who are from the hood very good. He does good by them by not switching up his accent, by keeping a very heavy, strong. He got the strongest Oakland accent that I probably heard ever from a professional nigga. But you feel every word that he's saying. Is similar to when Nipsey was talking, and Nipsey was talking consciousness, right? He was talking, hey, yo, I know I got a New York draw. If my New York draw and we speak in them deep words, if it slaps like that, then kudos. I would never really know. Yeah, you know what I mean? But if that's how this shit sound, where we're being authentic and we're being able to keep our raw accent, inflections, tonality, right? Cadence type shit. You know what I mean? And don't gotta switch up. You know what I mean? Just to remind some of our people who they out here trying to domesticate and pull out of the motherfucking juke joint. Like, nah, stand on your, just grab a pair. You feel me? Just grab a pair, bro. You know? And just stand on your square. Like, just be you. And then he's a professional. Like, that's why I say, master your craft. Don't worry about nothing. Let your art speak for itself. Let your craft speak for itself. You don't gotta sound white. You don't gotta walk with a twitch. You don't gotta do any of them things. You don't have to break your wrists. You don't gotta be a broke back. You could be a smoke stack. Stand on your business, right? You don't have to dumb yourself down. You don't have to quote unquote code switch. Stay authentically you. They call it your proper persona. That is a powerful thing. You'll be able to sleep well at night. You'll be able to interact with your loved ones better. You won't have certain regrets and things of that nature. And it is a defense against them niggas coming to get you. I promise you, they not gonna try Ryan Coogler like they gonna try the nigga who come in there trying to sound like them, Jordan Peele. No disrespect, but I see two different Tyler Perry. I see two different personalities. I see two different energies. Some people just act like they going for whatever, and some don't. That's his garlic, my nigga. I'm belligerent. I'm belligerently belligerent. I'm unapologetically a sophisticated savage because that's my garlic. You know what I'm talking about? Imagine if all of us was talking this deep shit and we was trying to sound like Poindexter and everything. Yeah, they would be like, come on in, my nigga, come on in. You know what I'm talking about? We'd be all over the place. Cause they pass niggas around like a hookah. You know what I'm talking about? When it's sweet, when it's something sweet, and these niggas in the industry, they open the gate and they pass you around like a crowd surfer. You know what I mean? You see it. You see niggas hopping on these platforms, moving around.
Michael B. Jordan plays twins, but you could have easily got another person. Why did you do it this way? Yeah, it's funny, man. I always wrote them for Mike, always, and they were always identical twins. I have identical twin aunts. They're completely identical, but us as a family, we can tell them apart as soon as we see them. Just by how they hold their face. And they got very different demeanors. You know what I'm saying? I always wanted to make this movie very personal. I wanted to explore dichotomy. Like for instance, the dichotomy between the church and the blues. I thought it'd be great to explore that. The other thing to it is like we have African American people. African people got a very interesting relationship with the concept of twins. There are twin deities in the Yoruba religion. West Africans over-index in the birth of fraternal twins. However, identical twins is something that science still can't explain. They still don't know why the fertilized egg decides to split and replicate. It's not something that's handed down genetically. And what I also found, like some of my travels playing ball, and it's almost like every neighborhood got a set of twins in it. It's like, and they usually like they're like hood twins. You know what I'm saying? I knew several sets in the Bay, and usually they are called twin because you can't tell them apart, and that's found its way into our slang today. You know what I'm saying? Like kids calling each other twin. It's from that concept for me was something I was really interested in, and I wanted to explore that dynamic.
So in Saints and Sinners on May 3rd. In Saints and Sinners, me and my twin brother, we are identical twins, by the way. People don't even know that, right? Me and this man have split from one egg. We are going to go on about an hour deep dive on the mystical meaning of twins that only twins can set. I mean, come on now. We could hear anybody talk about it, but if you ain't a twin, that's like me talking about being a giant and I'm short. Yeah, I read it. I read what that shit is about, but let a giant tell it. You feel me? So we're gonna have the twins giving you the real fucking science, the shit that, because there's people with twins in their family. They got twin children, twin parent, twin uncles, all type of twin, and everybody is twin in the streets now. So yeah, this is a twin. My nigga, it ain't about me and Blue, because please, I don't want to make this egotistical, but it's like you let it cook. You know what I'm talking about? Let it cook. Let me get this right here. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this right here. You know what I mean? So Sinners becomes one of the biggest vampire movies ever made. Once again, don't let them tell you anything about what we want to see as a people, about our dollar, about nothing, about anything that when they talk about they shit, don't got nothing to do with us. We did this. This was not when I was in the movie theater, they wasn't in there. I was shocked to see about 3 of them leaving with their face down. But at the end of the day, everybody is watching it now. It's not a black movie, but the first weekend, we pushed that. So word of mouth, good quality, good word of mouth. They had a good rollout, but it came out on Easter weekend, and then the Pope died. Come on now. What are we talking about? So a movie about niggas choosing music over the church come out. Their strongest hole is niggas, the strongest hole in the church. Before they switched it up and threw it on the Africans or the Latin Americans, is our people. We keeping them, we keeping that shit alive. We keeping certain people functioning and whatnot off of our battery. The minute we wake up and start seeing that we got to get back to the roots, you know what I mean? And we got to get back to the roots, to the unseen powers. But the right way. Though. Not that white star. Not that shit that they out here doing in these hoods. Not that hood magic. So, of course, they hating. Of course, they hate. Of course, Satan is hating. You know that was coming. You feel me? You know they walked out of that theater tight. You know what I mean? Trying to kick over garbage cans and come up with some type of shit to beef about. So, yeah, they mad.
Sinners was number one at the box office this weekend, taking in $48 billion.
Fuck Minecraft.
Above industry expectations. Also critically acclaimed with the highest Rotten Tomato scores of any Ryan Coogler film, including Creed and the billion-dollar grossing Black Panther. With the strongest start for an original film in 6 years since Jordan Peele's Us.
Come on, son. Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what the shit is lapping Black Panther, bro? Pootie tang, nigga. Pootie tang.
This weekend taking in $48 billion, 20% above industry expectations. Also critically acclaimed with the highest Rotten Tomato scores of any Ryan Coogler film, including Creed and the billion-dollar grossing Black Panther. With the strongest start for an original film in 6 years since Jordan Peele's Us opened to $71 million in 2019. Yet when media outlets like the New York Times and Variety report on the film's success, they do so with an asterisk. Literally. Remember, kids, it cost $90 million, so it's not profitable yet. All this when films by white directors like Quentin Tarantino's
Can't hear it.
Time in Hollywood, which cost the same price, made $7 million less its opening weekend. It was called an outright success by the same outlet. An example of an insidious and infuriating phenomenon that I have dubbed white male confirmation bias. The idea that straight.
I can't hear that shit. Yeah, I don't know. Hold on. I'm such a real genius. I'm such a real jigger. Let me just do this. I'm gonna do something because I care about y'all, man. Like, give me a minute. Let me do a little magic trick. I gotta turn it into a movie. It's gonna take about 2 minutes. Let's do this. Let's play some music and whatnot. I'm gonna play some music and then we're gonna come back with the audio proper light. You know what I mean? So just hang in there, fellas. Yeah, we still loading up the movie. Like, we be right back. Go get go smoke something. You feel me? Go to the bathroom and whatnot. We hitting the 1 hour. You know, go get a smoke or something. We'll be right back.
Red, blue, purple light, friends. Red, blue, purple light, friends. Facts. Red, blue, purple light, friends. Red and blue, purple light, friends. Facts. You can get to know the letter, sacrilegious Sunday to melanin Monday. You can get to know the letter, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road. You better stay on your toes. I was till the land focused on the ego. Then I opened my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, we stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah, we gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts, we in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts, peace, love and light. Peace, love to the family. Peace, love and light. To the family. Peace, love and light. To the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.
Yes. We're back in the building. It's almost there, y'all. It's almost there. I got it compressing and we almost there. But the sound is important, man. F that shit. Ryan Coogler might watch this shit. I need it to sound like it's supposed to sound, if you understand what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about? Audio is number one. Well, I could look like shit. As long as the audio is good, we Gucci, you know what I mean? Thumbs up. If y'all got any questions and whatnot, you could go ahead and shoot them off. And we could do some word from our sponsors about the upcoming events as we wait for the movie to finish being created and whatnot. You know, it's on the way. Coogler should put red and blue. We should put Coogler in our next movie. Either or. However it works. Either we get in his movie or he'll come in our movie. You know? Oh, you heard the music. You thought the show was over, right? Yeah, I know. It's the intermission. You know? It's the intermission. When are you and the family gonna create a movie? When we get the funding, you know, I'm not doing anything on the struggle budget. I'm not doing nothing on the struggle budget. I'm not shooting nothing on the iPhone right now. We'll do podcast. I mean, I'll do a movie on the iPhone. Like I said, I just need the budget. You know what I'm talking about? I need the budget, and the budget usually is crowdfunded. I don't want an investor because I don't want nobody owning my shit, and I don't want nobody hounding me, you know what I mean, for their millions and whatnot. I don't want to get an ulcer. So there's new business models that have emerged that we could utilize successful measures to do what we need to do. And by all means, that's something that we're going to do. That's what the Nick Cannon thing is, what really was the last straw for me. The Nick Cannon situation solidified the urgency that we have to create a film division and begin to tell our own documentaries and our own short films and our own long form and even our own series and whatnot. Because that story on Dr. Sabi, we filmed that when I had a fade, when my hair was short back then. That must have been 2018 or 19. But we that movie has not come out as of yet. And the information that was in that demonstration, it would have saved lives if it came out before 2020. It would have saved lives. It would have helped people so much immensely So literally people are losing their lives. Look how many rappers died because of health conditions. And if they were to see that documentary, there's an 8 out of 10 chance that they would probably still be here. That's a fact. That's how strong that information was. Not just in Sabi's story, but in everybody that he had in the documentary that was going to be researched after the movie, right? You said if KT was identified as a pill, what color would he be and why? Well, KT would be the purple pill. You understand? KT is Sammy. You know? KT is Sammy in the movie. Let me get a fire emoji if y'all can see a red and blue pill juke joint. Let me get the fire emojis if y'all was at the Gathering of the Masters after party or the Non-Ether Godfest after party, and you would think red and blue pill juke joint would pop off and would last more than one night, unlike smokestack twins. Who could see a red and blue juke joint? Because I could see it. I could see it. But KT would be the green pill in certain ways, but KT will be the purple pill. In the Masonic rites, we are Boaz and Joachim. We're the twin pillars. And KT is the arch degree. Henceforth, the name KT, the arch degree. So we're the twin pillars, and he's the arch degree, which completes the temple. And Mama Pill, she's the legend. You feel me? Shout out to Mama Pill. It was just her birthday and whatnot, and she wanted to tell me to tell everybody big thank you. She got people were sending her because I put her QR code on the thing, so she was getting birthday presents from people and whatnot, and it was love. So I want to say thank you to everybody for showing love, and happy birthday, happy born day to my favorite Taurian and my favorite Taurus in the world. You said Nick Disney can't. Yeah, well, remember Nick Cannon, he was militant one minute, then he got smoked by them small hats, right? Then he switched up on us. You remember that? That's what happened. You know what I mean? So you obviously know that they was like, you can't put that out, right? We'll let you back in the fold and whatnot. But we saw that commercial for that trailer for that thing. You know we can't put that out, right? And he was like, whatever you niggas say, whatever y'all say, I just need my job back. Because he wasn't about to come out on 125th Street and hang out with dudes out there. I mean, truth be told, if you really want to know, if he would have rolled the dice and gave them the middle finger, he probably would have had more money today. He would have been more successful, and it means that he would have been a hero, a legend amongst his people. And that's one thing that you can't take. The money gonna run out, but the respect never will. The money gonna run out, but the respect never will. What does that mean? That means that the money will run out, right? You sell yourself out for a few dollars. Yeah, my nigga, that's gonna run out. Right? Eventually that will run out. Eventually the money will run out. But your name being good, your name being respected, your name being honorable, right? That right there, your legacy for what it's worth, that will remain intact if you carry yourself a certain type of way, right? Check this out. If you carry yourself a certain type of way. I'm about to send that to my mama and whatnot. How y'all like that right there? Would y'all put that on your altar? Will you put that on your altar? That's a little gift that I got from my mama. Yo, somebody said Nipsey definitely would have pulled off the Sabi movie, but they knew he would have brought even more light to Sabi's name. If Nipsey Hussle would have did the Sabi documentary, once again, millions of people would not have went through C19 because they would have been getting healthy and wouldn't even have preconditions, and they would have known what to do with any type of ailment because they would have already got the Sabi download from Neighborhood Nip. It hit differently depending on who it comes from. So Ryan Coogler gives you a story about twins. It hit differently than if, Michael Mann or Spielberg did a story about twins, right? It hit differently depending on where it comes from. So because his brand is authentic and he's rather authentic because, his work speaks for itself, he was able to slip through on these people and hit them with a 1-2. They didn't even see it. I know they didn't even. I know they didn't. They probably seen the version of the movie when everybody else did. The Hollywood people, they probably seen the finished version of that movie when everybody else did. He didn't even show that shit to them. He probably was like, "Yo, this is about some other shit." Nipsey was big on crypto. So check it out. Nipsey would have had people on crypto early, right? Because that was a whole thing. Okay. Because remember, Ethereum came out in 2020. So Nip would have been telling people, yo, XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin at this lower price where it was back in 2019, 2018. Right? And then he would have still been telling people he knew how to articulate better than most rappers these days, or even quote unquote celebs and whatnot. There was a trust factor that people who were watching him had, and he knew how to articulate to our community and speak in our language about buying Bitcoin. Niggas was like, I'm fucking with it. Okay, Ether was created in 2015. All right, when did it go crazy? In 2020, correct? So before it would have went crazy, he more than likely would have talked about it and got his people from the streets and the people who was rocking with him to invest in it. That's that's the power beyond an influencer. Don't even give him that title. He was past the influencer, right? He was messianic, right? Messianic, similar to how would anybody say, based off of now you've gotten the opportunity to see him, would anybody say that Vibes Cartel is messianic? Would you say that Sammy was messianic in the movie, right? So when we talk about fear of a black or more Messiah, and when we explain what the Messiah is, Sammy is the Messiah. The twins are messiahs too. The twins were messianic. They had people that were following them, people that believed in them. You know what I mean? They were in the streets. So they had that, they had that balance and everything where they had their respect. So let's check out the sound.
Even watch the films it votes for, and we all know the demographic.
Okay, so now we good. Let's get back to the conversations at hand. You understand? Y'all all right?
Of twins. There are twin deities in the Yoruba religion. West Africans over-index in the birth of fraternal twins. However, identical twins is something that science still can't explain. They still don't know why the fertilized egg decides to split and replicate. It's not something that's handed down genetically. And what I also found, like in some of my travels playing ball, and it's almost like every neighborhood got a set of twins in it. That's like, and they usually like hood twins. You know what I'm saying? I knew several sets in the Bay, and usually they are called twin because you can't tell them apart.
You know that snippet is going on the Twin album.
And that's found its way into our slang today. You know what I'm saying? Like kids calling each other twin. You know, it's from that
That's all. That's a Nip energy, bro. Him and Kendrick got a real. And this is how messianic forces work. Messianic forces are a fork, right? The Messiah, the messianic force in our community and amongst our people, amongst the chosen ones, amongst, it forks. So you have Nipsey, who forked into a Kendrick, Ryan Coogler. That's why they popped out together. K-Dot, or Kung Fu Kenny, his tour started the same day that this movie drops. Right? And you see what they did together on Black Panther and whatnot. They're intertwined. So it's almost like a fork type of energy, but it's definitely given that Nipsey, that Nipsey energy.
Concept for me was something I was really interested in, and I wanted to, I wanted to explore that dynamic.
Yeah, shout out to all of those other
Sinners was #1 at the box office this weekend, taking in $48 million, 20% above industry expectations. It's also critically acclaimed with the highest Rotten Tomato scores of any Ryan Coogler film, including Creed and the billion-dollar grossing Black Panther. For the strongest start for an original film in 6 years since Jordan Peele's Us opened to $71 million in 2019. Yet when media outlets like the New York Times and Variety report on the film's success, they do so with an asterisk. Literally. Remember, kids, it cost $90 million, so it's not profitable yet. All this when films by white directors like Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which cost the same price, made $7 million less its opening weekend and was called an outright success by the same outlet. An example of an insidious and infuriating phenomenon that I have dubbed white male confirmation bias. The idea that straight white executives in Hollywood and really across all industries are psychotically committed to the idea of themselves as the standard bearers of success. Will cling to this narrative even in the face of numerical evidence to the contrary. Which is why the success of black film directors, and for that matter women or queer people, must be contextualized or diminished as an anomaly, the exception, not the rule. Which is, again, infuriating because it stifles career. Always justify giving women and people of color less money when you believe the lies you tell yourself that their stories don't sell. This not only affects the box office, but how the art that gets made is critiqued. For Christ's sake, we just found out the Academy doesn't even watch the films it votes for, and we all know the demographic makeup of this show. And they're not gonna skip Gladiator 2, even though that movie was poo. They're skipping the gay the black and the flicks by chicks. White male confirmation bias is not about success, it is about remaining at the center of the story. The chasm between this emotional reality and what the rest of us are able to see is a large reason why the industry and much of society is currently broken. Diversity is the world we live in, not a token, and y'all can keep telling yourselves the lie, but you're just shrinking the pie. Roll credits.
So Hollywood execs fear Ryan Coogler's Sinners deal, right? So now we got the Sinners merch popping. You know what I mean?
I'm sure we're all wondering what possessed Grace to snap like that and invite the vampires in, essentially betraying the alliance that she made with Smoke and everybody else when it came to her own self-interest. Well, there's a lot of historical context behind that, which further adds to the layers of this movie. Welcome to part 2 of my Sinners Breakdown series. This is your spoiler warning. Grace and Bo were an Asian American couple who lived and worked alongside the black people of the area. They worked real close with Smoke. They took money under the table, assisted with opening up the juke joint, even went as far as to help Smoke cover up the fact that he shot 2 dudes outside of their store. Basically saying that although they're an Asian family, nobody in the area cared because you lived and you worked amongst us, so we all the same. And history basically proves that it's true, as there were a lot of Asians who moved to the South post-slavery and pre-Jim Crow.
When I think about how the Chinese came and just settled in the Delta from Memphis to Vicksburg, I mean, just look at it. It really filled a particular need.
So yeah, them owning a store in the black neighborhood and them working so closely with Smoke makes perfect sense.
These stores played a uniquely important role in the segregated South, serving the black community when the white community wouldn't.
And because they face so much discrimination and racism, just like us, we basically clicked up. And that black and Asian alliance stayed strong until self-interest got involved. Because there are unfortunately a few moments throughout history where the self-interest of the Asian community was more important to them than the black community that they decided to move into. Latasha Harlins was a 15-year-old black girl in Los Angeles who was unfortunately unalived by a Korean store owner. The Asian store owner falsely accused Latasha of stealing, and she decided to pull out a weapon. She showed absolutely no remorse for her crime and then leaned on the fact that the court system does not care about black lives to work in her favor. The store was located in a black community and mostly profited off of black dollars. This girl and her family suffered, but none of that mattered as long as she got what she wanted. Very similar to what happened with Grace in that one scene. She didn't want to take action when Mary became a vampire. She didn't want to take action when Stack was unalived by Mary. She even turned a blind eye when that guy got jumped behind the bar. Even when the vampires initially trapped everybody inside, she was perfectly fine with it until her husband and potentially her daughter became the victims. At that point, the alliance that she made didn't matter. Now, some of the most important characters in the movie were the Native Americans, who were basically vampire hunters. The Native American people are the people of this land, so if there's anyone who knows about all the dangers of it, it would be them. Yet when they tried to warn that lady that Remick was a danger inside of the house, she didn't care. She valued loyalty to her own skin color and her hatred for other people more than she did her own safety. The presence of the Native American vampire hunters was to show you just how long this evil has been on this land. And see, Remick, he ain't the villain you think he is. Because you know, Ryan Coogler is great at making us question if the villain of the movie is actually a villain. Y'all just stay tuned for part 3, man, because it's a lot more to discuss.
Now, before we move further, I just want to build on that briefly. The fact that he speaks about this vampire being here longer than what we are giving credit to, right? So I really want us to be able to get deep into our studies. Now we have these AI supercomputers or super search engines called DeepSeek, Google Gemini, and of course ChatGPT. And you could find these things. Stories of vampires, stories of bloodsuckers, stories of quote unquote beasts, packs of them and whatnot. Serial killers, serial killings being put on people and calling it serial killers, but at the end of the day was something else. All of these things, these are not secrets, right? Once again, there was talk of the Europeans coming over here and bringing with them these vampires or these, these ghouls and whatnot, these beasts, right? The TV show American Gods definitely is, the minute I saw this movie, that I couldn't help but to think about American Gods, especially when I was introduced to the character of Remick. I'm like, yeah, they touch on that in American Gods, how people come over here and they bring their deities with them. They bring their demons and they bring their gods, or their angels and their demons. And this is no different. This industry that we call the music industry and the music industry and the movie industry, this multi-billion-dollar industry that historically, right, was always had the vampires circling around it, right? They always had somebody hearing the quote-unquote Pied Piper of the instruments that we were, mastering, whether it was jazz, whether it was the blues, you feel me? Whether it was soul music, whatever, even down to the rap today. There's always vampires outside of the juke joint. So when the mob got involved back in the 30s and the 20s, those were the vampires back then, right? Those were the heartless bloodsuckers and whatnot who were killing people, right? Who were assaulting people, who were extorting. They, this is the mafia and the mob we're talking about. This ain't no fucking Boy Scout. Like, they were bodying shit. They were getting away with, you know what I mean? They were taking lives. And they had the artist on drugs. We have drugola scandals, underworld shit, right? And then you had the executives, right, who were part of this quote unquote real bloodsucker secret society that they call the Pink Mafia, right? And then you have the Crowleys, and then you have the Luciferians, right? And then you have the Khazarians. It's a lot of shit going on in these industries that people just willfully, put their whole lives into, or just walk right in willy-nilly and whatnot. So the show that we did with Brother Rich about 2 weeks ago, we talked about the oligarchs and the Jeff Epstein connections to P. Diddy. This movie is an addendum. This movie is an epilogue to that. This movie is an add-on to that. This movie means everything that we had. You go watch that interview that we did with Rich again. We're talking about every single thing that's in this movie. They explained to you what the music really is. And we've been saying this ever since Blueprint 322, 2010, with A.A. Rashid, Black Dot, Red and Blue Pill, and Noble Ampoule Classic. The subtitle of Blueprint 22 was Hip Hop Runs the World. It influences everything, right? And this is in 2010, y'all. People wasn't talking about it like that. They wasn't talking about hip hop like that. Hip hop was mixtapes. Hip hop was CDs and shit. You know what I mean? Of course, rappers and artists were larger than life. They were megastars and all of that other shit back then. But the understanding that we collectively have about what this truly is, that this conversation was it wasn't a local conversation. Hip hop in and of itself, the industry, the artists, they was not even speaking consciously and shit. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot has changed. A lot has changed. And those who can see this shit for what it is. I remember starting out back, everybody didn't see this thing for, this is a watershed moment. Everybody did not see the fangs on the demons. They did not believe that there was vampires. They did not believe that there was quote unquote something wrong. But now people know, and knowing is half the battle. So let us continue.
May be in the minority here, but I don't think Sinners needs a sequel. As much as I love this movie, as much as I love these characters, as much as I would love to see more, we don't need to see more. We can't complain about Hollywood only giving us sequels and prequels and remakes and reboots, and then when we finally get something original, the first thing we ask for is a sequel. However, if they did give us a sequel or a prequel, I wouldn't be against it. In fact, I actually have two solid ideas of what a Sinners prequel and a Sinners sequel could look like. Now, for the prequel, I think the best route to go would be with the Choctaw Native Americans. Unfortunately, I don't have an official picture or a screenshot of them from the movie because it just came out, so I'm gonna just have to let this one rock. In the movie, we were introduced to the Native Americans after Remick showed up at that lady's house, and he was running from them. Now, I don't know what they did to this man before we saw him on screen, but looking at the state he was in, they put hands and feet on that boy, okay? And it was almost sunlight. He was almost done for, but he got away because the white lady was a Klan member, and of course, she ain't gonna let a white man suffer like that. But it's obvious that the Choctaw in this movie were vampire hunters, so a prequel with them exploring more Native American lore the same way they did with Southern Black lore, mixing that with them as vampire hunters, I think that shit will be fire. This movie could end with the fight that went down between them and Remick when Remick got away. Now, a Sinner sequel could follow Stack and Mary in the 90s. Already seen from the end credits scene that they were alive and well, and they were looking pretty good. Since one of the main messages of this movie is about music and its relation to our culture, a sequel could easily follow Stack and Mary as like execs or managers or something like that, using their power to coerce young artists into signing blood contracts. And in the movie, they could come across one starving artist who wants to do great things, but they refuse to sign. So the whole movie, we could just basically see Stack and Mary just haunting this person. And since blues was the main genre of the first movie, the second movie could focus on hip hop and R&B. Like I said, we don't need a Sinner sequel or prequel at all. I think the movie is perfect on its own. However, I'll never turn down an opportunity to go back into this world again.
Build a
When I
universe.
think
and they will
about
come. Build a universe.
how the Chinese came and just settled in the Delta from Memphis to Vicksburg, I mean, just look at it. It really filled a particular need because nobody else wanted to do it.
These stores played a uniquely important role in the segregated South, serving the black community when the white community wouldn't. And this was significant because it meant more than 70% of the population got their groceries and everyday goods from a tiny Chinese community. Frida's family...
Look how crazy that shit is. Look how crazy that shit is. So even when China opens up the gates in 2025, right? They're now the mega plug. Look how they started out though. Not to say that this is how China started out in America, but this is how China started out in America, right? Taking over trade routes that we had. This was our shit. Don't let nobody fool you. We know how to feed ourselves. We know how to we were able to take care of ourselves and whatnot. It's just that they interrupted a lot of the trade, and they became the white man becomes the middleman, and he dictates how goods and services are given to us, right? And they bring in buffer nations. They bring in buffer nations, and they build these buffer nations up by offering them positions that we should be filling organically, natively, and originally, right? They should not be in our community. What the fuck? They should not be in our community in the goddamn Mississippi Delta selling goods to us in Mississippi when we're the mound builders. Like we're the merchants. You know what I'm talking about? Like what are you talking about?
Family store in Minsang started out in the 1930s as two different buildings across the street from each other. One serving black people, the other serving white people. Neither black nor white, the Chinese community found themselves in the middle.
It was like a 3-lane road. There were the whites and the blacks and the Chinese. We all stayed in our lanes and we were fine until we crossed over.
The Chinese grocers depended on the black community for business and also served them in very practical ways.
God, yeah. But yeah, that's an interesting story.
So, when did Irish people become white in America?
When
Go for it, John. When did the Irish become white? And how long have you been white,
As a recently visibly white guy, it's a complicated history. W.E.B. Du Bois made a famous statement about the condition of blacks in America in 1890, early 1920s, and indicated they were the poorest in all of America, except for the Irish immigrants, who were the poorest. And they were called Black Irish, and were despised by all the other immigrants who had already come in there, except the blacks at the time. And the Irish were able to scrape by on the generosity of the black people. Once their economic condition surpassed that, they no longer used that phrase and became white.
There have been numerous instances of groups becoming white in the United States. The Italians, Jews, Eastern Europeans as well. But
so we've had this conversation before on the show, and I just wanted to throw that in there as an addendum that white is a status. White is not something that automatically applies to people because they're pale and whatnot. You were born late. You just got here late. But prior to you getting here, there were groups of people with pale skin that were not considered white. They were not a part of white society. They did not have the status of white. Everybody that we see with a pale face, because of the way that they lied to us in school and because of the way that they've withheld information from us, we're sometimes attributing them to be some type of superiors or some type of, I don't know, I'm not we, but you know how they have our people and whatnot. And we don't understand who they are. That's why I'm keen to ask them their nationality. I want to know, what's your nationality? Because I want to know what type of European you are. I want to know where your people come from. Because you better believe your bottom dollar, they want to know where yours come from, right? They're not going to ask you to your face, but they damn sure going to find out.
Have you guys seen what's going on between?
So who remembers? This goes all the way back to 2024, but I'll fast forward it to this year. How many times did I say that this was going to happen? How many times did I say that they're about to pull a play on Ibrahim, right? The minute I seen that he made a deal with Russia, and I said, pray for him because they're coming for him, right? I could read the room. And I know the way that Trump is moving and the things that he's saying about this golden age and whatnot. And the minute they said that he's going to need those Congo materials, the raw, I already knew what it was. So, yeah. The theater, the stage is being set.
Between these two, this is Ibrahim Traore. He is the most selfless leader in Africa. And this is General Michael Langley. He is the first black 4-star general in the Marines. And this general, he had a lot to say. He name-dropped Ibrahim Traore in a meeting. Look.
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side in order to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this and I might call them out, but Captain Traore and Burkina Faso, as they, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
What do you guys think about all this? Obviously, Ibrahim Traore, he put his people in Burkina Faso first, and now he's become the most popular leader in Africa. And the general, he called out Ibrahim Traore, so there must be a motive behind this. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below.
I'm a proud Muslim, but as a Muslim, there's something we need to address. How Western powers have used impressionable Muslims who think they're fighting for jihad to serve their imperialist interests.
The United States, like England before it, has tended to support radical Islam against secular nationalism.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. Secular nationalism, by and large, has been more independent and has attempted to move out of the control of.
So secular nationalism is what Ibrahim is doing. That's Burkina Faso. That's secular nationalism, right? That's not jihadist. That's not Islamic. That's secular nationalism. This is what they kill leaders for, right? This is what they've been. This is what the CIA operates in, quote unquote, defense against.
Western power.
So-called Islamist groups have proliferated across Africa and West Asia in the last 7 decades. From Egypt, Syria, Mali, Libya, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso, the list goes on. But whose interests are these groups really serving? Let's start with Syria. Its new self-proclaimed president, Ahmed Shara, also known as Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, has garnered support from the West and neighboring Arab leaders, despite the US placing a 10 million bounty on his head in 2018 for leading, at the time, a designated terrorist organization. And at the end of 2024, that bounty was dropped, and Jilani, formerly a terrorist, has been rebranded as a moderate Islamist, as the man to end the Syrian people's suffering. It's amazing what a nice suit and tie can do. While the fall of Bashar al-Assad has been widely celebrated, it's worth noting who Jilani really is and who helped him get to power. In 2011, Jilani left the Islamic State of Iraq and went to Syria to establish the Al-Nusra Front, a branch of Al-Qaeda, who, as the leaked email correspondence in 2012 between then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and her Deputy Chief of Staff Jake Sullivan showed, were fighting on the US's side in Syria. That same year, Barack Obama covertly tasked the CIA alongside the UK government and Saudi intelligence to overthrow the Syrian government in Operation Timber Sycamore. The CIA funded, trained and provided intelligence to radical and extreme Islamist groups such as the Al-Nusra Front led by Jolani. Operation Timber Sycamore, which received billions in US funding, ran a rat line to run weapons from Libya to the radical extremists in Syria. Now, African Stream, we are not fans of Tulsi Gabbard, but she describes this disastrous US policy pretty accurately.
DoD Train and Equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with Al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria.
Not only is Jolani a Western-backed Al-Qaeda militant, his surprise seizure of power has cut off Iranian military supplies to anti-Israeli resistance groups such as Hezbollah, which were shipped through Syria under Assad. Ironically, the name he adopted, Jolani, refers to his family roots in the occupied Golan Heights. Yet, since he came to power, Israel's been expanding the areas it occupies and has repeatedly bombed Syria's military equipment and bases in the region. Yet Jolani has said very little and done even less. So much for jihad. Let's now turn to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Founded in 1928, it began as an anti-colonial movement resisting British imperialism in Egypt. However, despite initially taking a principled stand against American imperialism, by the 1950s, it had become aligned with the US due to the opposition to Jamal Abdel Nasser, Egypt's revolutionary president who had nationalized the Suez Canal and vowed to liberate Palestine, fighting off Israel, Britain and France in the process. He pushed for Arab and African unity. He had a nationalist vision for Egypt, one built to resist Western domination and neocolonialism. Rather than supporting pan-Arab nationalism, the Brotherhood opposed it on religious grounds as they didn't believe Egypt should be a secular state. This fitted nicely with the Western efforts to tame and weaken the anti-imperialist leader. Sensing tensions, the US began regular meetings at the US Embassy in Cairo between American diplomat Frank Gavarni and the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hassan al-Hudaybi. Nasser understood what was happening and began to crack down on the Brotherhood in 1954. That same year, they tried to assassinate him and became more militant in their opposition to the state, leading to their official ban. The Afghan Mujahideen are perhaps the greatest example of the converging interests of radical Islamists and the West. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan to protect the socialist government, which was on the verge of being overthrown. To resist the Soviet invasion, the West armed and funded the radical Afghan Mujahideen, who would later become the Taliban, including Osama bin Laden, who would later become the head of Al-Qaeda. The US provided aid to the Mujahideen through Operation Cyclone, a program to arm and finance the Afghan Takfiri group. The UK also supported the Mujahideen, including covert operations by the MI6 itself. They weren't only financed and supported, they were treated like heroes. Here's a quick glimpse of the then UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who visited the Mujahideen in 1981.
I want to say that the hearts of the free world are with you.
In 1989, the Soviets were defeated, and then the Taliban and Al-Qaeda for a short time were their allies. Then suddenly, they became the West's sworn enemies. And after 9/11, the same people the US supported in the 80s became a pretext for the US and its allies to intervene in Afghanistan and Iraq. To start its global war on terror, which would sweep across Africa, the Middle East and Asia, killing tens of millions of people in the process. Libya is another prime example of radical Islamist forces working against anti-imperial and secular nationalists. The Libyan Islamic Fighting Group was created by Libyans who fought alongside the Mujahideen against the Soviets in Afghanistan. It started targeting Muammar Gaddafi in the 1990s to create an Islamic state in Libya. Gaddafi was an anti-imperialist and pan-Africanist who supported African independence and challenged Western hegemony across the world. He supported South Africa and Zimbabwean liberation struggles, Palestinian and Irish resistance, and black nationalist groups in the US. As far as the West was concerned, he had to go. In 1996, MI6 funded the LFIG in a plot to kill Gaddafi. They failed. But it didn't end there. In 2011, France, the US, and the UK backed the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group and other militant groups in the overthrow, brutal murder, and sodomization of Gaddafi. LFIG was a designated terrorist group when they received their backing from the US and the UK in 2011. And guess what? They got taken off those terrorists shortly after, in 2015 by the US and 2019 by the UK. So whose interest was served by Gaddafi's fall and another prosperous oil state descending into civil war and a current stalemate where two different governments control the country? Take a look at Hillary Clinton's emails and you'll find the answer to that one. Take Burkina Faso for example. Blaise Compaoré, a Western-backed leader, was overthrown by a popular revolution in 2014. In 2015, two Islamist groups began expanding their operations in the country. It seemed there was no terrorist threat when the Western-backed puppet regime of Blaise Compaoré was in power. But as soon as he was overthrown, all of a sudden, Burkina Faso has a terrorist threat. Today, Burkina Faso, under the revolutionary leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, is asserting its sovereignty in military, economic, energy and mining spheres, resisting neo-colonial exploitation by the West alongside AES allies Mali and Niger. Yet Traoré is having to spend the country's resources and efforts on fighting off radical Islamist insurgencies, which are suspected of being Western-backed. In 2024, Ibrahim Traoré accused France of providing support to terrorist groups attacking Burkina Faso. Traoré said he had
audio recordings of French agents in Benin who play at the terrorist center of operations
and
set up operations with them and help them to look after themselves.
In 2021, Mali's Prime Minister Choguel Maïga claimed he had evidence that France had been training terrorist groups operating in the West African country. Then in 2022, Mali's Foreign Affairs Minister Abdoulaye Diop sent a letter to the head of the United Nations Security Council alleging Mali's airspace had been breached more than 50 times this year by French forces using drones, military helicopters and fighter jets to deliver weapons to terrorist groups. Very damning allegations that are supported by the fact that France has not exactly been shy in demonstrating its disapproval with the revolutionary processes going on in Ouagadougou, Bamako and Niamey. Boko Haram in Nigeria provides a revealing recent example. A now viral video of US Member of Congress accusing USAID of funding the group has caused alarm across Africa.
Your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding.
The US ambassador to Nigeria denied the claim, as he would. However, Nigerian authorities are now investigating, and rightly so. General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, raised some interesting questions about this during an Al Jazeera interview in January 2025.
As we speak, we have over 120,000 that have surrendered. Most of them, when you find them, they are coming with hard currencies. How did they get them? How are they funded? How are they be able to sustain themselves for 15 years? That is one question I think everybody should ask himself.
Yes, we should. How is a group operating in some of the poorest areas in northeast Nigeria able to go up against a national army for 15 years? Here's some historical context that might help, in particular the example of Al-Qaeda with its roots in the Afghan Mujahideen.
Al-Qaeda has always been our proxy force on the ground. They, together with ISIS, have carried out the mission of the United States, together with a great number of affiliates.
The US trained and equipped and funded the Mujahideen against the Soviets in the 80s. It was in the American prisons in Iraq that ISIS was formed. after the US took out its once close ally Saddam Hussein in 2003. We even have states created on radical Islamist concepts such as Saudi Arabia, founded by a known British Empire asset like Ibn Saud. Through the Treaty of Turin in December 1915, the British Empire made the lands of the House of Saud a British protectorate and gave them their modern-day state boundaries. In exchange, Ibn Saud pledged to wage a war against Ibn Rashid, an ally of the Ottomans and a rival to the British Empire. Today, Riyadh is still a close British ally and above international law, acting with impunity, whether it's bombing Yemen, helping to destabilize Sudan, or chopping up journalists in Turkey. This is not to say that the US and co are fans of radical Islamist groups, or vice versa. But the West has allowed these terror groups to flourish in a way that ultimately serves their interests.
That was deep.
Breaking news, Burkina Faso is on attack. So yesterday, Burkina Faso was attacked by an Islam-affiliated group. But we actually know who is attacking Burkina Faso. And let me tell you, it is bloody because Burkina Faso has faced one of the largest casualties in an attack. And let me tell you, there are so many protests in France and Italy demanding Burkina Faso President Ibrahim Traoré to step down. Because these Western countries have not succeeded in putting Ibrahim Traoré down, now they have paid a jihadi group. And this jihadi group yesterday attacked a community in Burkina Faso, ending the lives of so many Burkinabés. Let me tell you, it's bloody. I don't want even you to see the videos that are coming from Burkina Faso. And this jihadi group is now saying that it will advance to Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. Now, good news is that Ibrahim Traoré has not been touched. He's very safe, and he has sworn he's going to fight to the end and liberate Burkina Faso from Western power. Let us continue praying for Burkina Faso. Let us continue praying for Ibrahim Traoré.
Sparked a lot of questions for me.
This is the girl, if anybody didn't see the movie Sinners, this is Annie. No, this is Mary. And she's an octoroon in the movie, meaning that she has one drop of blood. They are women in society that they say are passing that look like this. I haven't met any, but this is what they say. But check it out.
It's always so fun. The research for the job is always the best part, right? One of the best parts. And a lot of times you're learning about something that, you may know a little about or nothing about. And you make discoveries about yourself through those things, but it's not about you, right? It's about something that you're learning, something else. And with this, it was my family. The research was my family and my family history. And a lot of times it didn't feel like, again, research being like the best part of the job didn't feel like part of the job. It felt like these amazing conversations that, like I'd mentioned, easy to say I wish happened sooner, but I'm so grateful that they're happening now. And even after seeing the movie last night with just some family, it's like the conversations about this movie are so important. But it brought me so much closer to my mom and to my grandfather. And yeah, I mean, this role, my imagination ran wild with thoughts of what his life might have looked like growing up, what his parents' life might have looked like. And I'm just so honored to be a part of this story and of this world that, while it's wild and exciting and fun and there's jump scares that'll really get you and the music is incredible, it's so important. And this served me in a way that I didn't know I needed so bad.
She was the one that I said was game goofy. And she was the one that I said is the prototype or the archetype of the European, whether she got a drop of black blood or if she's purely Nordic, right? She's the archetype. She's like Kim Kardashian type, the Paris Hilton type, the quote unquote game goofy type who people, melanated men, right? The stacks of the world, they chase them and they get caught up in that web because they're game goofy. So they be around, they like characters like her, they live around vampires, right? But because she's passing, she's not even really part of that society, right? Like I showed you the video a minute ago, they were deciding who's what they call white. White is not something that you just inherit when you're born. They had to say, all right, nigga, you're white. Yeah, y'all all right with us. But you had to put in so much work as a race. Remember, we talked about race, right? Races that are in a race. In the movie, the Chinese girl, she's in a race. Her race was to preserve her race, and her daughter's a part of her race. So she chose race over everybody else when it all came down to it. In the race, in this race, unfortunately, we are part of this social construct where they created this shit called race, and people are in the marathon and they repping for their race in the race. Nobody's trying to see you win if they're not a part of your race racing with you. So let's look at the vampires. Let's look at the vampires, right? Let's check out the quote unquote bloodsuckers, the real life bloodsuckers, right? Who Ryan Coogler is talking about. This is them in the flesh. These might even be baby eaters right here.
Universal was the largest company. Sony was right behind them, and Warner was a distant three. The gentleman that owned Universal was Edgar Brofman.
Edgar and I changed the name to Universal. Jimmy ran the West Coast, and I ran the East Coast. Well, it was a small company before that. Jimmy came over, and within the first year and a half, he had the number 1, 2, 3, 4 albums in the country.
Doug's first and last sentence always is, do they have one song? Created more executives and more artists than anybody probably ever.
Well, the strategy was to fill it with urban music. I don't think a record company can really be successful without urban music, the roots of our music.
So when Wesley Muhammad, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, when you see him on the platform, when he comes through the first time, and when we do this upcoming lecture, I'm going to show you the flyer for it in a minute. He is going to peel back the layers of Edward Brofman. You know what I'm saying? This is a name that they don't mention a lot because usually the most sinister of them are not the ones in the front, right? You don't hear his name a lot, but this is one of the most powerful vampires in the coven, right? He is responsible for the conditions of so many people who are now walking dead in our community, buried alive, walking dead vampires, the ones that are bitten, mentally gone, all type of shit. This Brofman, the people who are behind Seagram's, right, play a prominent role. And I'm only saying that with conviction because I was privy to see Dr. Wesley Muhammad's presentation, and he was breaking down the music industry, and he was breaking down Brofman, and he was going to FN. So I know when y'all get to see that, y'all are going to be like, oh, hell nah, I need to go and see this lecture. This brother is indicting this. You know, he's lining them up. The name of our lecture is called Hip Hop Conspiracy Theorem, not theory. Theorem. A theorem is a theory proved. A theorem is a theory proved. There's no longer theory. We got the receipts. There's no longer a theory. We could prove it. We could prove it now. It's a fact. It's a fact. This not happenstance. This shit got invaded by vampires.
We had Death Row, bought Def Jam, we acquired Cash Money, and just with those 3 companies, we probably had 40-45% of all the urban music in America.
There you have it.
Let's talk about
All of them niggas was Sammy, right? They was all Sammy, and they was outside. All of these vampires were outside of the quote unquote jump off. They were all outside of the barn, right? They were all outside of the juke joint. They were all outside of the hooky party. They were all outside of the quote unquote hole in the wall. Liar Cohen literally went, he would fly and go to certain, he would go and visit the artists in their state. I think he went to Young Thug to Cleveland Avenue type shit. I think if it wasn't Young Thug, it was somebody. But he'll get on a plane and go pull up on you like Remick with his A&R and another vampire with him. And they'll basically take your life, sign it away, change you into a whole nother type of person that even your mother won't recognize. And, you know, wait for you to die off or kill you off for your catalog that is going to live in what? Perpetuity, meaning what? Your catalog is the vampire. Your body of work is a carcass that they feed off of, is given life, and it lives forever like a vampire. And they make sure of that. Okay? And they're able to feed off of it. So it is of no coincidence that artists are doing what? Being unalive wholesale. First, they were being unalive from overdoses. Then they were being unalive from unfortunate situations which were violently induced and whatnot. Then they were being unalive because of health reasons. Health failures, right? They're not even insured. These artists don't have no insurance. These vampires suck them dry for their magic, for their imagination, for their quote unquote looch, for their aura. And they don't even have simple dental health care. They don't even have simple health care, y'all. What are we talking about? This is $1 billion. You heard that man talk. Let him explain how he built the fucking empire real quick again. How they collected our people to do it. The same thing they show you in Sinners.
Universal was the largest company. Sony was right behind them, and Warner was a distant three. The gentleman that owned Universal was Edgar Brofman.
Edgar and I changed the name to Universal. Jimmy ran the West Coast, and I ran the East Coast. Well, it was a small company before that. Jimmy came over, and within the first year and a half, he had the number 1, 2, 3, 4 albums in the country.
Doug's first and last sentence always is, do they have one song? Created more executives and more artists than anybody probably ever.
Well, the strategy was to fill it with urban music. I don't think a record company can really be successful without urban music. The roots of
take that exact sentence that he's saying and put it on Remy in that scene where he was explaining to Sammy and to the Stack to Smoke and Stack that to Smoke why they wanted Sammy, why he was important, the fact that he had that guitar and that record, right? He killed the vampire with the record and broke the guitar on him. Right? So take this audio and then match it up, and it's gonna match perfectly. They showing you right here.
Music. And we had Death Row, bought Def Jam, we acquired Cash Money, and just with those 3 companies, we found
Death Row. So he owned Death Row, Def Jam, Rockefeller, and Cash Money. How many people went to jail? How many people got shot up? How many people start selling crack and caught life? How many souls did those 3 labels and those 3 quote unquote movements, like let's keep it a buck, keep it a hundo, right? And if you wasn't alive for it, just listen to, listen to the OGs in the audience tally up the numbers and whatnot. But think about the labels like juke joints, is like a juke joint where everybody got turned into a vampire. Imagine if the Remy and them got let into the juke joint the first time when they was trying to get in, right? And then they locked the doors. They would have turned the whole house into a slaughterhouse. That whole goddamn that whole sawmill would have been bloodied up and whatnot, similar to how it was as a slaughterhouse where they were taking black people, where they were kidnapping black people, you know, taking them and slaughtering them, right? And feeding them to pigs, right? So that's the same thing that you see at Empire Records. That's the same thing that you see at you know, some of these records where all of the artists are getting killed and what. It's a slaughterhouse. But think about how many people went to jail, how many people got life, and I'm talking about mimicking this music, following this motherfucking the flute, following the words, following the pop piper. How many people got their tops blown off, got their shit pushed back, proverbial, got their TV turned off, following Cash Money, following motherfucking Rockefeller, following artists on Def Jams, right? Think about that. So they turned a bunch of people into Walking Dead, into demons. They turned a bunch of people into vampires just by controlling that quote unquote stake in black culture, which was those three major labels.
Probably had 45% of all the urban
They own
music in
45%
America.
of black music in America. So anything.
Let's talk about Sammy
any
and the
agenda.
decision that he makes at the end of Sinners. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, so drop a like and come back later. Also, if you like talking about movies, can I be your movie guy? So why does Sammy decide to keep his guitar and leave his home after the events of Sinners? Well, it turns out he was actually inspired by Remick, the main vampire who hours before tried to unalive him. The movie starts at the end where after the events of Sinners, Sammy is given a choice by his father to put the guitar down and devote his life to the Lord. The movie then shows us all the events that led up to this moment, and we learn that he is the son of a preacher, getting the nickname Preacher Boy, and that he loves blues music. And if you know anything about the South and Mississippi and Jim Crow, a lot of people thought that blues music was the devil's music. So after quite literally having a run-in with the devil, why does he still hold on to the guitar? Well, during the climactic scene where Remick has Sammy dead to rights and is about to unalive him, Sammy starts saying a prayer, to which Remick starts saying the same exact prayer. Now, this isn't just simply Remick saying God will not save you here. It's actually way deeper than that. He goes on to say that he actually heard this prayer before from the man who stole his dad's land from him. He's saying that this religion that you grew up on, Preacher Boy, is not even yours. It was forced upon you just as it was forced upon me. And even though the words did give me comfort, it didn't save me and they won't save you. In that moment, Sammy realized that Christianity was just another piece in the enslavement of his people. And even though in that fantastic one take where we see all the cultures of the past, present, and future come together brought Remick, it also brought the communities from all timelines together. This was the moment where Sammy and his people felt more free. Even Delta Slim acknowledges this in his monologue where he says, "Your religion came from them. The blues music came from us." So at the end of the movie where Sammy was presented the opportunity of going back to that form of subjugation or going out and being free with his music, he chose freedom. It's also an interesting word choice he says to his father when his father says, "What could be more important than being in the house of the Lord?" And he says, "I've been working all week. I want to be free of all this for a day." And the epilogue brings it all together when they said for one night they were all free.
Yes. Spoiler alert. I mean, hey, even if you didn't see the movie, you're getting a great lesson right now. And you're getting the tidbits to feed you. And the full context is when you get your full meal. So eat up. You know what I mean? It's a, you know, he fed the people. And as you can see from the numbers, the people were starving. Men lie, women lie. The people were starving.
It's not.
So who are the vampires? Who are the bloodsuckers? Who's the synagogue of Shaitan? Who's above the KKK? Who's above the quote unquote trailer trash? Who's above these orphan trains and, you know, these Cabbage Patch Kids and whatnot? Who are the vampires running them? The ones that have more of a power, more of a quote unquote unseen power, more mystical, right? The ones that can disappear and reappear, shapeshift, shape form, and all kind of stuff that eat children. You got to remember, I mean, just think about how much the streets, let me just go. Check out what these people say about their own people, right? Check out what these people say about their own people. Yes, and the black nobility as well. They're in on it as well.
Only secular, because the founders of Zionism and the people, the Zionists today, are not only secular. They basically, many of them, hate Judaism.
So he's using secular in a way where he's saying that the people that you see in Is It Real, you're under the impression that they're Orthodox or they practice the religion. And he's saying that they're secular. They do none of the such. In Hollywood, there's a lot of secular Jews and whatnot. They don't practice it. They just go under the name, but they're not practicing anything.
Hate God and his religion. For example, I have a friend of mine who grew up in Zionist education, grew up in Jerusalem. And he told me that what he was taught is that we, the Jewish people, have two enemies. Now guess who the two are and who the first is. The first is the religious Jew, and the second is the Arab. But that movement, the movement of Zionism, who is secular and who refuses to follow Judaism, they misuse this very same religion they refuse to follow, and they misuse it to justify crimes which are forbidden in this very same religion, because killing and stealing, oppressing an entire people, all of this is forbidden in Judaism. And as I said before, the whole concept, the idea of Zionism to build a sovereign homeland for Jews is in total contrast of Judaism. Us, people in the free world, should say something. This is in.
That's why you see there's protests in New York with the Hasidics and whatnot, and the Jews in Brooklyn going against Is It Real, and even in over there, they have clashes and whatnot between the two groups. That's a better understanding of the isms or the fractions within. Similar to black culture, we got people that are not rocking with other people, but you would not know that unless you were in the culture. You would think we all on one accord and we're all one monolith and we all agree to everything that everybody else is doing, which is furthest from the truth.
This is unjust for the people of Palestine that this voice is attempted to be silenced. But it's not only doing injustice for the Palestinian people, this is doing injustice for the Jewish people as well, because when you conflate Judaism and Zionism, you conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, you're making a statement as if all Jews support all what's going on and as if all Jews are accountable to what's going on. But we always need to know better than that. And we try to educate people to understand that anti-Zionism has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, because Judaism and Zionism are not the same. Judaism is a religion. Zionism is a political movement. Should never be conflated. A lot of Jewish people in New York, many of them support Israel, but there's a massive community who is anti-Zionist. And people might not know because the mainstream media would never show you that. Like, for example, there was a couple of years ago, there was a huge mass anti-Zionist rally, a Jewish anti-Zionist rally in front of the Israeli consulate on 2nd Avenue, Manhattan. And then CBS would announce that there is a traffic jam on 2nd Avenue. And they would not say what the reason is. A number of my teachers were Holocaust survivors. And you know, they were telling stories, terrible stories. And unfortunately, we're hearing similar stories now. This is something that should... The Jewish history in the Holocaust should be a lesson for Jewish people, how to refuse this genocide taking place in Gaza.
So we're going to end it right here. This is part one of, I'm going to be doing part two tomorrow on Melanin Monday, but we're at the 2-hour mark, you know what I'm talking about? And I'm not going to keep y'all all night, but we definitely had a beautiful show at the 2-hour. It's definitely, you know, we was cooking. You feel me? We was cooking tonight, and we're gonna keep on cooking. So we'll reconvene tomorrow, and we'll continue to drop more jewels. You know what I mean? More information and whatnot. You feel me? More bars. Go over the stuff that you saw tonight. It was a lot. You know, it was a lot. if you saw it or if you didn't see the movie, but especially if you didn't see it, somebody drop a link where they could watch it online. I had a link the other day. Somebody sent me a link too. I just don't have it in front of me. I would have dropped it in the chat, but somebody dropped the online link if people want to just watch that shit on the computer. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't get out the house. You know. But yeah, let me get the word from our sponsors before we get up out of here. Check us out. All right. Once again, make sure y'all, y'all on the lookout for the Pope packs. They on the way. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake. This is called Premium Ops. You feel me? Premium Ops. You feel me? We ain't playing. Shit smoke real good. All right. So we got Wesley Muhammad, May 31st, y'all. All my Patreons. We got Wesley Muhammad in the building, May 31st, only on Zoom. This lecture is going to be fire. All right. We going upstairs with it. What does that mean? That means that we going to raise the roof. We making a bona fide certified classic. You know what I'm saying? We are going to take apart this hip hop shit once and for all. We forming Voltron and we stepping on the culture and rebuilding it in the in the way that they rebuilt consciousness for us, in the way that the master teachers set it up. You know what I mean? We're gonna set it, but we're gonna put it right. Then me and Blue Pill, May 3rd. Me and Blue Pill on May 3rd. We are going to hit you with Saints and Sinners, y'all, on May 3rd, which is a Saturn day. Me and Blue Pill is coming at y'all with Saints and Sinners. And this one is going to speak on everything dealing with the twins, everything dealing with everything that's going on right now. You know how we do. You know how Pope Pablo cooks. And you know how the Red Pillar cooks. And we might even have a special guest. We're going to keep you updated. But make sure y'all get y'all tickets. All of these are available. All of the tickets for these are available in Buy Me a Coffee. They're also in Eventbrite. You can also find it in the description of the video and whatnot. And then finally, also, we have the Vibe Code and Chill. All right, the Vibe Code and Chill. Let me upload that real quick. That's going to be tomorrow. No, that's going to be on Tuesday. All right. That's going to be on Tuesday. Right there, 488 in the bookstore, 488 Edgewood Avenue. Vibe and Chill. All right. So it's going to be like network and chill. Nah, vibe coding and chill. We're going to pull up, work on our vibe coding skills, which includes, and is not limited to, right, app development. You have app development, you have quote unquote all type of shit. Web development, app development. You could come up with mobile games. There's so many things. I'm telling you, sky's the limit. So let's get together. One of the best ways to do this technology is by being in a room with one another. It's not that easy when you're doing it in the house by yourself, but you could do it together. So Techno Tuesdays, IRL, Vibe Coding and Chill, hosted by Red Pill, 488 Edgewood Avenue. That is the bookstore right next to Slutty Vegan in Midtown, right in the city, at the bookstore gallery, 488 Edgewood. Doors open up at 6. It's 11:11 to get in there. You know what I mean? We're going to be rocking out to the night. You're going to walk out of there with priceless information. Frax. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I want to say thank you. for your time. And, you know, we will be seeing you Melanin Mondays, mañana. All right. So with that being said, peace, love, and light. Stay dangerous.
Red, blue, purple light, friends. Red, blue, purple light, friends. Facts. Red, blue, purple light, friends. Red and blue, purple light, friends. Facts. You can get to know the legend, sacrilegious Sunday to Melanin Monday. You can get to know the legend, my love. Just open your third eye on Thursday. Lord, the food, the art, the clothes, the Vatican's getting exposed fast. We put the show on the road. You better stay on your toes. I was till the land focused on the ego. Then I open my heart, let go of the ego. Grand after grand, we stacking up these C notes. Facts, facts, yeah. We gon' put this shit on our backs. Facts, facts. We in your city, pull up where we at. Facts, facts. Peace, love and light. Peace, love to the family. Peace, love and light. To the family. Peace, love and light. To the family.
These days and time, black man, is going to be the time that you have been waiting for. You came here for a reason. Whatever pressure, whatever adversity, whatever the fuck you feel, I don't know what you feel, but whatever you may be feeling is going to push you, and it's going to provoke you, and it's either going to make you or break you, similar to how pressure busts pipes or the shit makes diamonds.